You've probably already heard about the documentary on Discovery called Quiet on Set. The documentary features writers, actors, etc. recounting their horrible experiences working at Nickelodeon. Most notably, this documentary featured Drake Bell, who revealed that he was sexually abused by Brian Peck, a dialogue coach who worked with Nickelodeon in the 90s up until 2003 when he was arrested. Oh, and Brian Peck only got 16 months in prison, and when he got out, he got a job with the Disney Channel, meaning he got to work with more kids. How great. But someone else who got a good share of the scrutiny in this documentary was Dan Schneider, creator of Drake and Josh, iCarly, Victorious, so many other kids shows that you remember on Nickelodeon. The allegations against Dan include him requesting his staff members to massage him, being a misogynistic asshole towards his female staff members, like, for example, two women who were part of the writing staff for the Amanda Show's first season, Christy Stratton and Jenny Kilgan, had to split one salary between each other. Christy also makes the claim that one time when she had to pitch an idea in the writer's room, she had to pretend to be sodomized. And Jenny also made the claim that Dan Schneider would make her watch porn with him. And also, of course, there's the wildly inappropriate jokes that Dan's shows were plagued with, like, for example, Ariana Grande when she was still a teenager, pouring water on herself in a very sexually suggestive way, if you know what I mean. Or child actors putting feet in their mouths. Now look, in a vacuum, I don't really mind it when children's shows include some adult humor. I always go back to the age-old example where SpongeBob is holding soap bars and says, "Doubloons, don't drop them," in that episode where he tries to get Gary to take a bath. That joke is clearly in reference to the saying, "Don't drop the soap." Of course, it's a joke that completely flew over my head as a kid, but now as an adult, looking back at that joke, I'm like, oh, I see what the writers did there. But when I'm watching these clips from Dan Schneider's shows, I don't have the same reaction. I am instead like, why the fuck are you pretty much sexualizing these child actors? It's one thing to sneak in some adult humor that the parents can laugh at and the kids themselves can laugh at when they themselves are adults rewatching the shows they enjoyed as kids. But it's a completely different thing when you have actors who are minors essentially playing out the creepy fetishes of the weirdo they work for. But it's okay though, because Dan Schneider is now sorry for this pattern of behavior, as evidenced by a video uploaded onto his YouTube channel the other day. It's done in the style of this softball interview, not conducted by anyone reputable, but rather by the dude who played T-Bo in iCarly, the dude who worked in the smoothie shop the characters would go to a lot. I personally barely fucking remember this character, but anyway. It's just a shitty PR response made to seem like Dan is genuinely sorry for his behavior and his treatment towards his staff and actors throughout the years. It is a desperate attempt to damage, control, and salvage his image. Not like there's much of an image to salvage before, but now more eyeballs are on Dan than ever. And it's so convenient that only now you are sorry and reflecting on your behavior during your 20-year tenure at Nickelodeon. Where was this remorse and introspection during the entire time you're at Nickelodeon? Fucking nowhere, because as far as I'm aware, you were the same prick the entire goddamn time. This is not like one or two isolated incidents where you said something off color or anything of the sort. This is a clear pattern of shitty behavior that spanned across 20 plus years. And I find it so fucking hilarious that Dan is like, I watched this documentary in its entirety, and it was so difficult to watch because I am so embarrassed and shocked over my past behavior. Yeah, well, how do you think those who worked under you felt when they were degraded, or had to massage you, or had to have goo pop smeared on their face, like they were receiving a facial, when they were a minor, or any other fucked up thing they had to endure from you? And imagine how those who participated in this documentary felt when they had to recount such experiences. They probably feel humiliated too. But no, it's Dan we're supposed to feel sorry for, even though a lot of the awful experiences shared in this documentary happened under his watch or directly ordered by him. You would think that if the dude was genuinely sorry and looked back at his time at Nickelodeon and realized how fucked up his treatment towards other people were when he was there, at the very fucking least he would try to reach out to some of these people and be like, you know what, I've been doing a lot of self-reflection lately. I realized that the way I treated you was really fucked up. I'm very sorry. Whether or not you accept my apology is entirely up to you, but just know that I am genuinely remorseful over the way way I treated you. But no, all of his fucking stories come conveniently after the documentary that grills him. He is only sorry that he is now finally under blast. The feelings of those who worked under Dan Schneider are completely irrelevant to him. The only thing that matters to Dan is that now more people than ever know how much of a scumfuck he is, and that hurts his ego, because for years he was known as the guy with a children's TV empire whose shows defined millions of people's childhoods. And he thought with such a reputation that any mistreatment of those who work under him would just be swept under the rug and he would never have to face accountability. Well, here we are now. And speaking of ego, my favorite part of his faux apology was when he recounted Drake Bell's mother contacting him to help Drake write a speech that he would recite in court when Brian Peck was being sentenced. At this point of the video, Dan put on this weepy bullshit voice like he was on the verge of crying, even though you couldn't even fucking see so much as his eyes watering up. According to Dan, she was like, "You know what, Dan? I'm not good with words like you are, so can you help Drake write this speech?" Like, even at the point of the video where he's trying to garner the most sympathy from the audience, he can't help but jack his own ego off. And then after that, Dan was like, of course I'll help you, you sweet little angels." Ugh. Give Dan the award for worst acting of 2024. Jesus Christ. But anyways, fuck Dan Schneider and his fake apology. If you truly had a come-to-Jesus moment over how you treated your workers in the past, I feel like it would have come way before this expose documentary, and not conveniently right after said documentary. I really hope that this documentary inspires more child actors and more staff that worked on children's shows to come forward with their own awful experiences, because God only knows there is no shortage of fucked up people in the children's entertainment industry. That's all I have to say. Bye-bye.